Okay, so Second Nature. Here's a picture of the book. This is a combination of Ric Flair and Charlotte, as the book. Of course, your subtitle is The Legacy of Ric Flair and the Rise of Charlotte. Now, for Ric Flair's portion, this is they gloss over a decent amount of it. You know, this is why he has a book that precedes it. This is kind of like the Ric Flair sequel book. But you do get a little bit of, here's the end of WCW. They mention he was in TNA. They talk about the WrestleMania retirement storyline, and a lot about that. If you want to get a decent amount of information on him taking on Shawn Michaels for the retirement match, it's in here. Now the portions from Ashley, we know as Charlotte, a lot of it is growing up Flair. So yeah, they do talk about, here's my mom. This is when I found out my dad was cheating on my mom. This was the divorce. This is trying to find out about a new person. This is that marriage dissolving. This is meeting another person. You know, so there's a lot of her growing up, getting her Land Rover when she was 15, being a superstar athlete. A lot about her and her brother Reed. Interesting tidbit that they have about her is they raced a lot. But she injured her back, wasn't a body cast. So she couldn't train the way she wanted to. But she still found a way to run in a body cast and still beat her younger brother. Those are the touching moments when it's her talking about the fun she had with her brother. And as you get farther into the book, and it's like, oh, he's in Japan, he's doing all these amazing things, and I think, oh, it's going to be great. Then you get to have Ash talk about her first of 2 failed marriages. She's got a way to go to tying her to her father, but her first 2 failed marriages, the first one you read and you're like, this sounds horrible. But she got through it. You know, her being a multi-sport athlete and just being a freak athlete. They called her Beast for a while because she was actually more athletically gifted than some of the men in her class. Okay. Granted. Her time at FCW. You know, her time in college, dropping out of college, getting married, the horrible time there, getting back into college, finishing college, not quite knowing what to do, and then deciding, what? Her brother in and out of rehab, you know, he wants to be a wrestler, I'm going to go on this journey with him. 2 different sides of the world, both learning to become wrestlers. There's a chapter dedicated to the death of Reed. And then the back third of the book is NXT up to the WrestleMania Triple Threat. So it's a good read. You can tell this is it's a block of time. So you can tell that as they kind of finished off Ric's career, they also began Charlotte's career. So if they wanted to do another book, it could pretty much just be Charlotte. Which makes for a nice trilogy, because then you can go from the Ric Flair's book to this book to a Charlotte book. And it's interesting. Her life has been interesting to say the very least. They talk about her going into college and having to first learn how to clean, because they always say people who did that. How to balance a checkbook, because there was always money. She had credit cards, but they were always paid. So she lived an undeniable life of privilege. But she always was heavily focused on academics and athletics, which was probably helped by the fact that she had a highly privileged lifestyle. They do lightly hint on her time at NXT, where she and Sasha were great friends. Sasha was upset that Charlotte was the second NXT Women's Champion. Charlotte also was kind of upset that Charlotte was the one to beat Nikki. So you can tell that there was some moments where they're really good friends, but they had some issues. I'll probably do a full video on it. It's every bit of like pages in like a 400-page book. Actually, it's 357 page for dedications. You know, there's maybe like 2 pages total where it's me and Sasha and I were doing this great stuff. I took a step forward. Sasha felt like she was, wasn't being treated the same way. We became equals. I took a step forward. Sasha felt belittled. So, but there's a great quote from Triple H in here that... I'll do that in a minute. No, this is from Paul Heyman, sorry. That's the problem, you have multiple Pauls in this book. What they do is, every now and then there'll be a little asterisk, and then they'll put a little thing down at the very bottom for a further explanation. And this is written in both of their voices. So you do like a Flair chapter, then actually, they don't do chapter back and forth. So sometimes you're reading in the context, you'll figure out who's what. Here's from Paul Heyman, describing Ashley Flair. Ash is a perfect choice. Was a perfect choice to establish the women's division and the new WWE Women's Championship. She has the intangible it factor, a combination of look, talent, charisma, and the indescribable magic that occurs between a select few performers in the audience. It's the difference between a long-term, top-level #1 superstar and being someone who goes in and out of the main event. Ashley has the magic. The magic that can't be fully described even by people who've witnessed it their entire lives. That's Heyman. There are all things in there too from Paul, Triple H. And you really get to find out more about him as a person and as a leader through little tidbits here and there. So, if you're a fan of Flair, and to be fair to Flair, it's double Flair. You get 2 times the Flair that you get in a normal book about Flair, because there's 2 Flairs. I thought it was good. Definitely an easy read too. I liked that if Ashley is telling a story, and you can tell right in the first conversation, it's like, can I speak on that? And then, sure, we'll put the little asterisk there. You can do a, here's my thoughts about what happened. And it's a couple sentences, just that way that it's not like, it feels almost more like they were reading through the book and they went, I'm glad that it was written this way, but I need to throw in my 2 cents. So it kind of has a little bit more of a, like you're interviewing both of them, and one's telling a story, then one goes, well, I did it. Let me clarify that a little bit. Alright, it's interesting. So, you can get this wherever books are sold. You can get an online copy, you can get a digital copy, or you can get a physical copy, because physical copies are just great, because you can actually hold the book and put a bookmark in it. Here's my Rohan bookmark. So definitely worth picking up.